Hello and welcome to Pluribus Unum's Fireside Chats. Not as good as FDR's, but hey, it's something. Now, this episode, we're going to have a little bit of a different intro, because this one, I'm going to have to address something that is basically an elephant in the room. This will probably be a section in and of itself, but bear with me. So, there's a chance that you might have seen it, especially if you're one of the people who came here specifically because of it, but as we know, on June 2nd, there was the Mexican presidential election that happened. Won't divulge my thoughts on that until we get to that part of the video, but needless to say, a lot of people, like on the left, just randomly started paying attention to it on that day, despite the fact that I've been paying attention to it for like over a year now, but you know. And as such, a lot of people started just talking about it and giving takes. And one person on the online left wanted really desperately to learn a little bit about the upcoming Mexican presidential election, which made sense. I mean, my video got a lot of views, my video on the Mexican political parties that I released specifically in June, because I knew that, like, many of you might not know this, but this was the point. That was the point of it being released this month. That video was released this month because the Mexican presidential election was coming up. So that was the point. People were going to be looking into the Mexican presidential election. They'd go find people to like talk about it, and boom, I'd have a video out there for people who want to learn about it. It was also supposed to be back when I had to do back when I did 2 videos a month, which is due to this big project, unfortunately, still can't be accomplished as of yet. At this point, I might even, after this month, I think the month of July is going to be no videos that month, because it's like the last leg of trying to focus all the attention, and I still have a long ways to go. Just a hard time focusing. I think I'll make an official announcement when that comes, but either way, regardless. And, well, scrolling through comments, I noticed that there was a person that said Hassan Piker reacted to me. And sure enough, yes. I immediately assumed the worst, because I made a video on Hassan Piker a while ago, and it wasn't necessarily the most positive video on Hassan, but it turns out that wasn't the video that he watched. He watched the video where I looked over the Mexican Mexican political parties. Okay, not necessarily that surprising either. That was probably the next guess. And then, as is my tradition, I decided to react to his reaction to me, or rather lack thereof, because Hassan's reaction was, Hassan is well known for his quote-unquote reactions, and it's not necessarily the best, but it was fine. I like that he liked some of my jokes that I made in it. Only thing I would have wished for is maybe an explicit actual thing about the video, maybe hey, this video is pretty good. Hey, look at this channel. This is the channel name of the person. Go sub to them or whatever. But I won't lie and say that I haven't watched YouTube videos in the same way Hassan does. Basically, kind of there with your mind focused on mostly something else, but it basically comes in your brain and you just sits there and you don't really engage with it at all. There are a lot of videos that I've seen of creators that I just have never subbed to. It's I like that video, but I have no interest in watching this creator any further. I just watch this one video and be done. I don't even like it. I don't even give it a like. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Shitty thing to do, I know. But, we all do that at one point. Come on, let's be real. And after that happened, I was kind of wondering, will I get the official Hassan, shout, because I know sometimes he posts, segments of his streams on his channel. So I'm will I get that treatment? Or will it have to be delegated to a fan channel? And sure enough, I ended up getting delegated to a fan channel. I reacted to the video before it ended up getting posted on the fan channel, because I preferred to just get it done immediately rather than wait a million years. Because again, that's just kind of what I like to do. I think it's funny. They reacted to my video, so I should be able to react to their video. Fair is fair, right? It's the same thing with when I did the previous Thoughts On segments. I made videos about a bunch of online creators. If they want to make videos on me, then that's their prerogative. They can do whatever they want. Even if you're a channel that has made a video on me, if you're a smaller channel and you want to make a video about oh, this Pluribus Unum video is wrong or whatever, sure, I'll gladly, it's their game. It would be hypocritical of me to say oh, I can make these videos about all these people, but you can't make videos on me. And it's the same thing with the reaction videos. He makes a video on me. I have no, he makes a video watching my video. I have the rights to watch his video of watching my video. And, eventually I did end up getting on a fan channel. Like, I was uploaded to a fan channel, and they made like a really shitty version of a thumbnail. Because, like, Hassan fan channels are also known for being rather infamous for how they choose to make the videos. And this one was terrible. Like, the thumbnail is just absolute trash. Hassan is like hastily pasted on like the thumbnail, and then the lettering isn't even right at all, because it's like got like a little bit of the red on the outside. And I mean, I didn't really mind that much. If you go to that channel, go to that upload, sure enough, I'm there. I'm in the comment section. Like, I mean, I engage with other people in the comment section. I say like, hey, who made this amazing, handsome video? I engage with people who are critical of my video. I engage with people who are positive with my video. Whatever. I didn't really care. I engage with them because I think it's the right thing to do. But then I had a problem. And it was when I went back to the video, and then I got something interesting on that fan channel. An advertisement. And that's when I immediately was just like, oh, okay. That's the one part where it crosses the line, because like uploading it is one thing, but then like profiting directly off of it, whatever. So I went through the proper means, because I don't know if I should mention the channel's name, because apparently if you're a Hassan fan, you know of this channel, but it is a rather infamous one. So basically, the channel uploaded a video and ads were on it, so then I decided to do what the channel says you're supposed to do and email them to bring this to its attention, because they said like if you email them, you can literally take down the video. And this is where I emailed them. I emailed them and said, hello there, I'm the creator of the Mexico's Political Parties Explained video. Initially, I was fine with the video being up, no real issue, honestly. That was until during a reviewing of it, I got a pre-roll ad on your channel, and that is where I have a bit of an issue. I do not feel comfortable with someone else monetarily benefiting from the labor that I put in this video for literally no pay myself, because that is true, I have made no money on the video directly. I then went on to state that I do not immediately want to request a takedown, for a lot of different reasons. I didn't get into them, but I'll get into them in this section. I didn't want to immediately request a takedown. I said, I would first like to suggest you simply do not put ads on the video. Should that not be an option, I would then move forward with simply taking the video if you would please. Which I stated, but you can just disable ads on a particular video. You are allowed to do that. But I said that in the case that they say no, then it's like, okay, then I will request a takedown. I then immediately got an email back saying, address not found, your message was not delivered to because the address could not be found or is unable to receive mail. Interesting. So then, left with no other option, I basically just copy-pasted that and then put it in the comments section of the video. After like a day, no response, and then I went on my private YouTube account and saw that I couldn't find the comment on that. Interesting. And now, whenever I comment on that video, my comments will either disappear or nobody will engage with my comments at all. Interesting. Then, like, as people point out, like, that channel is very infamous and not necessarily a real fan channel. And I did check, and yes, it is a bit odd, because I clicked the channel, and then the channel, back in the olden days, it has like a bunch of Vietnamese like nonsense account, like nonsense stuff on there. Like, it seemed like the channel was just like a basic like family channel of like you know how YouTube family channels are, but like for Vietnam. And then randomly at one point, they started posting Hassan content like 7 months ago. And I know that like foreign accounts have this like thing where like they'll jump on a trend basically to get money and get clout. Like a lot of times they'll post like cartoon clips. Sometimes they'll post like naughty scenes in like YouTube, like to like put like ads on them, whatever, and get a lot of money. There's a good chance that probably happened there, because realistically, I'm just like, if they were really a Hassan fan, this wouldn't be an issue, or at least it wouldn't partially be an issue. If they actually gave a shit about Hassan and the views that he said, like, wouldn't that be automatically like take it down or not put ads on it for stealing content from a smaller creator? Now, what is the next step? Well, let's be perfectly blunt, there is no next step. I could issue a copyright claim on that channel, but in order to do so, I would then have to leak them my address, because you have to do that because it's like a full legal process, and I'm not doing that at all. But there is also another reason why I don't really want to do like a takedown or whatever. It's simply put, unlike the Hassan channel, I actually have morals. And if you know anything about me politically, you know one of the issues that I'm passionate about is like copyright and like copyright reform and stuff. And one of the things I'm very impassioned about is like the idea of like copyleft, like expanding like not having like as especially rigid copyright laws and stuff normally. So wouldn't that be a bit hypocritical for me to then try to be like, oh no, this content's mine or whatever? Like, I'm for like free, fair content for everybody. Why do you think I post content on YouTube for free and then have a Patreon rather than putting up ads and stuff? Look at me, I don't really have necessarily a problem with Hassan and how Hassan like did the content, because that's kind of like just his thing, and I don't even necessarily have a problem with people who have uploaded it. There's a different Hassan channel that I had a more positive interaction with, Hassan VODs 3, who uploaded like who uploads entire Hassan VODs, and I found the one of the day that I did, and then timestamped my video, and I'm just like, huh, who's that? Whoa, what's that? It's me. And they gave the comment like a heart, like whatever. It's like, again, it doesn't really, like, I don't, like, it doesn't, like, that part I didn't really care about. It's them making money off of it when I literally make no money off of it. And also, another fact that I forgot to mention is the fact that that video has essentially eclipsed the OG video. My video has 16K views as of the time I'm recording this. Meanwhile, that video has 31K views. It's hard to calculate YouTube AdSense revenue, but let's just say there's a good chance that they're making way more money on the video than I have, considering I have again made basically no money on the video, and ever since its publication, I've literally only had one Patreon payout of like $10. I guess I've been rambling off and on about that, so let's just move on to some stories. I guess we'll start out with something that's somewhat positive. It's the fact that Claudia Sheinbaum won the presidential election in Mexico. I was so prepared for the results, and I was so interested, I literally made a video that was literally just me making like a meme funny thing for cheering for Sheinbaum. And there was one thing I put in the video that I was a little bit premature on. Like, I was like, I don't know if I should put this in there. And it was the Breaking Bad meme where the PRD is Walter White. And I was a little bit like, I don't know if that's gonna, I don't know, maybe a little bit premature to do that now. I mean, there's a chance that they could still pull out, but no, the PRD did not pull out. In fact, it literally seems to be just a flat-out given that the PRD is going to lose its registration. I literally found a news story that, like, Mexican Wikipedia has already officially stated that the PRD is dissolved, and the news story they linked as a source has basically said all the INE needs to do is just make it official and then it's over. There are a lot of things I could say, you know, like, I like the fact that Sheinbaum won. I hope that Sheinbaum does better things than AMLO did. But speaking of elections, another election's results have finally been tabulated, and it is India. India has officially announced their election results, and I've covered the Indian election previously. And basically, things are kind of expected. He Modi won, but his issue is now a bit big because originally he could govern without a coalition. Now he has to rely on his coalition partners to make sure things go smoothly. His coalition is still pretty big, 293 seats in his coalition versus the India coalition's 234, but it's notable. In fact, a lot of people even point out that there was a chance that Modi might have lost his seat. It didn't end up happening, but it was a chance. There really isn't much else for me to say here as well. I just hope that another thing that's been a little bit interesting is that there's a person in my Discord server who is from India who stated that the India coalition of the opposition has stated, like, they've started leaning a bit more into their progressive bona fides because the left-wing parties are the ones that ended up doing the best. So the coalition is going to lean a bit more to the left now. Hopefully they'll be able to give Modi a good old 1-2. Now let's transition away from foreign news to domestic news, and this story is the perfect way to transition because it does both. Israel secretly targets U.S. lawmakers with influence campaign on Gaza war. Israel's Ministry of Diaspora Affairs ordered the operation, which used fake social media accounts urging U.S. lawmakers to fund Israel's military, according to official documents about the report. As the story continues, Israel organized and paid for an influence campaign last year targeting U.S. lawmakers and American public with pro-Israel messaging as it aimed to foster support for its actions in the war in Gaza, according to officials involved in the effort and documents released to the operation. The covert campaign was commissioned by the Israel's Ministry of Diaspora Affairs, a government body that connects Jews around the world with the State of Israel. 4 Israeli officials said the ministry allocated around $2 million to the operation and hired Stoic, a political marketing firm in Tel Aviv, to carry it out, according to the officials and the documents. The campaign began in October and remains active on the platform X. At its peak, it used hundreds of fake accounts that pose as real Americans on X, Facebook, Instagram, and post pro-Israel comments. The accounts focused on U.S. lawmakers, particularly ones who are black and Democrats, such as Representative Hakeem Jeffries, House Minority Leader, and Senator Raphael Warnock. And I had to get that from a screenshot because as it has gone now, that story is now behind a paywall. But one more person that they mention is the fact that Richie Torres was one of the biggest beneficiaries of this movement. So again, like, Israel is kind of literally doing more bad, like, Israel's doing more bad things. They are literally admitting that they had been buying support from members of Congress to do this. Wow, what a big surprise. The thing that is interesting here is the fact that they're just explicitly mentioning the fact that they've been targeting black lawmakers. Now, I could make a very easy joke about the fact how Israel wants to buy black people, but I will also mention just the fact that they're doing this clearly for an intended purpose. They want to, again, negate the very obvious racial element of the Israel-Palestine conflict. To pretend that there is no racial, indications of the Israel-Palestine conflict would be very ludicrous, and, I mean, I've seen a lot of people, even on the left, try to point this out, but it's like, there is a racial element, and you gotta understand that. Israel wants that water to be muddied so much that literally it just looks like, no, you see, we are on the side of black people, and it's getting embarrassing. And oh boy, I can't wait for the, hundreds of thousands of Democrats that are gonna be really, really mad at the fact that, lawmakers are being bought by Israel. Bots and fake engagement is being bought by Israel, and that they're, influencing certain public figures. Hopefully, we'll be able to do something about that. Or is that only exclusively reserved for Russia? Let's move on to the next story. From one crappy black Zionist to another, Mondaire Jones. Originally, this was going to be one thing, but it turns out it is just going to be entirely just Mondaire Jones. I'm just going to call it, Mondaire Jones has had a bad week. I think that's what I'm going to call this segment. Mondaire Jones has had a bad week. Because Mondaire Jones has just... The whole thing has been falling apart for him. For those who don't remember who Mondaire Jones is, Mondaire Jones was a former member of Congress who served one term in the U.S. House. And he got pretty notable for his for being a first-term congressman. He became notable because he was the first black gay man to be elected to Congress alongside Richie Torres. He was considered notable because he was kind of similar to the squad. He was going to primary an incumbent member of the House, but then they retired, so then Mondaire Jones basically ran, he did have opponents, but he ran, as basically, he was basically second place, and then when she left, he became first place. To the point where many people were even going on to claim that Mondaire Jones could be one of the future members of the squad. He never ended up joining the squad, and then after, a whole shebang that we're going to get into in a little bit, he ended up leaving the U.S. House because we'll get to that in a bit. Well, Mondaire Jones is running for Congress again, and this time, he's changed a lot about his platform. The biggest one being he's taken control, everything, and then deleted his entire platform, and has basically been he's basically been doing the thing that a lot of Democrats are kind of doing, running purely on the vibes of we don't like Trump, we don't like the Republicans, blah, blah, blah. But they don't actually have any actual plans or platforms. That's what a lot of people who ran for Senate, House, and everything else in this cycle have been doing, especially Democrats. Announcing early, not really running on any actual explicit platform, so that you can get everybody to join you regardless of their political affiliation. And that has been happening for Mondaire Jones. He's managed to get the New Dems to back him, and also the Progressive Caucus. But people noticed that Mondaire Jones was starting to take a little bit of a shift, especially after a controversial tweet that he made, where Jewish leaders met with Kevin McCarthy, and then he tweeted something very mean. And Mondaire Jones has kind of started to be a bit more outspoken, particularly on one thing: Israel. Coincidentally, he's started talking a lot about Israel. Mondaire Jones was never really super pro Palestine when he was in Congress. I think one of his first votes was literally an anti-BDS bill or something. Or maybe it was one of his last votes was a thing that's recognizing Israel as a state or whatever. It was something like that. It was basically pretty clear that he wasn't necessarily pro-Palestine. He was not pro-Palestine. But especially in this cycle, he started going really, really, really heavy on his pro-Israel stance. To the point where he started to become a little bit of it started to become a lot noticeable that he's differentiating himself from the squad. And he finally reached a peak when Mondaire Jones made the stunning announcement that he would be endorsing George Latimer over his colleague, Jamal Bowman, his friend, Jamal Bowman. And at first, people were kind of just yeah, this is cringe. Mondaire Jones is officially turning ahead. I knew Mondaire Jones was cringe a while ago, because I knew I was very much understanding that Mondaire Jones was definitely shifting rightwards, but I already came to terms with the fact that he was just completely gone a while ago, back when he officially just announced yeah, I'm endorsed by the New Dems. But this served as a wake-up call for a lot of other people, basically just be wow. And they also started bringing up old tweets where it's just yeah, where Mondaire Jones yeah, me and my buddy Jamal, we're doing this thing. And then, turns out, this was a little too much. This was a big shock to me, because it was announced that the Progressive Caucus had started to talk with each other, and almost immediately, they told Mondaire Jones, sorry, dude, you are no longer on the slate. I was a little bit surprised, but then as Pramila Jayapal openly stated, she's this makes no sense logistically, because Jamal Bowman is one of the people we are putting all of our effort into. He and Cori Bush, I think it's him and Cori, they're these are the ones that we're protecting a lot. So it makes no sense for you to be trying to be part of the slate, and then trying to support and back Latimer. I find it very odd that this is when they're doing I like the fact that they are doing it now, but I wish they did this earlier, because a lot of people who were in the Progressive Caucus backed Haley Stevens over Progressive Caucus member Andy Levin back in his primary battle during the controversy with that. But I guess it's because Jayapal is trying to take the caucus in a more progressive direction, more radical direction, and which I'm okay with. I'm okay with that. And let's talk about how far of a bridge this is. Richie Torres isn't backing Latimer. Richie Torres, the guy whose mouth is throbbing with Israeli cum, that guy, he is not endorsing Latimer. When he was in the Progressive Caucus, he didn't endorse Latimer. I don't know if he's going to endorse him now, but it doesn't seem like it. The primary is really close now. I don't think he's doing it for any altruistic reason, but it's think about it. It's a bridge too far even for him to endorse Latimer. But Jones is just willing to do it. And then, almost immediately, came another bombshell, where it was announced that the Working Families Party had also essentially pulled its support for Mondaire Jones. Now, they haven't technically unendorsed him, because there's this really weird fake technicality about the fact that they technically haven't endorsed him yet. They have endorsed him, but the Working Families Party in his area actually is holding a primary, and there's another candidate in the primary named Anthony Frascone who is running. I don't think that Frascone is going to win, or if they're going to do anything in regards to that, but they've essentially just announced that they're pulling all of the ads, they're pulling all the money they were putting into his campaign, so they're essentially just leaving him out to dry. It's a very odd choice for Jones to essentially just kill all the chance that he has in support from the left, because everyone's just oh, okay, that's just weird. But then new bombshell drops, because Mondaire Jones essentially just confirmed, a big story just dropped that essentially confirmed a theory that everybody had known for at least a little bit now. At least I knew this for a while. And to do that, we're going to have to delve a little bit into the story about why Mondaire Jones currently isn't in Congress. And here's what happened. New York redrew its congressional districts in 2020. And around 12 minutes after the new districts were drawn, the DCCC chair, Sean Patrick Maloney, announced that he was going to be running in the new 17th district. That district, coincidentally, was Mondaire Jones' home district. And through the redistricting, Mondaire Jones was actually drawn into Jamal Bowman's district. So Mondaire Jones was put in a little bit of a bind. He could either run against Sean Patrick Maloney, run against Jamal Bowman, or there's a very odd chance that he could run in a different district. The people suggested that perhaps he could run in the 16th district, which is Richie Torres' district. But Mondaire Jones chose the last option, run in New York District 10, which didn't make any sense because it was a district that was halfway across the state. Meanwhile, the other three were closely aligned with each other. Mondaire Jones runs in the 10th, and due to the fact that there was a lot of division among the progressive vote, a Zionist Democrat named Dan Goldman managed to use all the money that he had to buy his congressional seat, with a simple 2-point lead against his second largest opponent, Yu Lai-nyo. And the media narrative that was spun was that Mondaire Jones was pushed out of his seat by Sean Patrick Maloney, and he felt that he had no other option. He could run against his buddy Jamal Bowman. He could do that, or he could run against the DCCC chairman, and also he chose to choose the path of least resistance to help the Democrats maintain their lead in the House of Representatives and run in New York District 10 to save both of his allies. Then it was dropped, Sean Patrick Maloney just randomly dropped, oh yeah, that entire story is just a fucking fabrication, because I offered Mondaire Jones the chance to run in that district alone, and he told me he didn't want to do that. He wanted to run in the 10th district. He just casually yeah. And a lot of things people are confused about, wait, why bring this up now? Well, short answer, I think I know why he's choosing to bring it up now. But we'll get into the very obvious thing. My theory was that they were trying to get Mondaire Jones to run against Jamal Bowman. That was what the plan was. And that part isn't secret. Mondaire Jones was floating himself as a potential candidate in Bowman's district. But then polling said that wasn't a good option, so he chose to run in the 10th district. Then in the next theory, the theory that wasn't necessarily proven, was the fact that he was going in that race specifically to hurt Yu Lai-nyo's candidacy. And at this point, I think it's pretty much confirmation. The reason why that they did all this was because they wanted, Mondaire Jones basically was going to play ball. That's why he's not part of the squad. He plays ball with the establishment. He wouldn't hurt Maloney. He would kiss the ring for Maloney. He wouldn't hurt, Torres. He would kiss the ring. And he would kiss the ring to help Dan Goldman win his seat. And now, because of that, he gets to have an open field to run in this seat. But now, it seems like Mondaire Jones is now just rubbing the wrong way, because I think it's different factions of the Democratic Party fighting each other. I don't know necessarily Maloney's alignment with the rest of the Democratic Party, but I think it just seems like he generally just wants, because he was the head of the DCCC, so his alignment is Democrat incumbents win. So the fact that he's helping a person primary and incumbent is he can't be trusted. There's also some people who say that there might be an alleged they might swap Mondaire Jones out with Patrick Maloney for the nomination. It's possible, but I don't think so. Either way, it just seems like everybody's just going Mondaire Jones is just not having a good week. Speaking of good week, not good week, next news story, the last news story, is a very sad, depressing news story, and one that is just an ever true development about one of the things that a lot of people have been trying to pull. There's a media narrative that I 100% rebuke right now. Blacks are not shifting to the Republicans. They're not shifting to Trump. They're not doing that. I've seen a lot of people try to make the claim that they are. There's a person in my Discord server that literally just says that every day. Every day he tries to do something blacks are shifting to Trump. They're shifting to the Republicans. Look, they're doing it right now. And then it's just literally every time that story comes up, it just doesn't work. Because literally you put it in any other scrutiny, it just shows it doesn't work. Like, look, this poll has it. Yeah, this poll of 1,000 people, that's not really a good indication of a broader community. Look, these prominent black celebrities are endorsing the Republicans. Okay, but what are you saying? Are you saying that black people are just like, oh yes, the celebrity did this thing, I will do that same thing too? And the celebrities that they cite are not really good, like, options. It's just like, look, this black celebrity endorsed Donald Trump. This black celebrity also said that trans people are like monsters. Ooh, a Republican back to Republican. Ooh. They literally cited 50 Cent endorsing, like, 50 Cent didn't even endorse Trump. 50 Cent, like, spoke positively of Trump. And then he said, like, oh, you see, he supports Trump. Ergo, the blacks are massively shifting to the Republicans. Ignoring the fact that 50 Cent backed Bush in 2004, backed Obama in 2008 simply because he was black, backed Clinton in 2016 very, like, vaguely, then in 2020 backed Trump before changing his mind at the last second and said that he was backing Biden. It's like, yeah, like, I mean, it's like let's be real, a lot of prominent, like, black, like, celebrities do have some very inconsistent political views. I mean, Kanye West used to be a very hardcore anti-Bush, like, borderline socialist, and then now he's literally just like, oh yeah, he's just like a super diehard fascist now. And this, like, it just happens so much. Like, it just happens a lot. And this, like, very, very tragic this very tragic thing that just happened is big proof that it just isn't working. Because, like, this is how it all is. It has to be done through manipulation and lies. And here's the story. So there was a prominent black Republican woman named Carol Mitchell, and on TikTok, like, she's like a prominent, she's like a somewhat notable, like, right-wing pundit on, like, TikTok or something. And basically, she went to a person by the name of David Hilliard. Hilliard is one of the founders, like, he's the former chief of staff of the Black Panther Party. He's an elderly man now, and she went to him and be like, look, and she basically, like, fed him a bunch of questions saying, like, do you support Donald Trump, or, like, what are your thoughts on Trump, and blah, blah, blah. And then he said, like, oh, he said that he liked Trump, and that he was a friend to African Americans, and blah, 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 like, just saying a bunch of stuff. He doesn't explicitly say, like, I endorse him or whatever, but, like, he says, like, he'd make a fine president. And immediately, that should be a little bit of a problem that you hear. Like, he would make a fine president. That's the first, like, indication that something might be up. But it doesn't matter. Right-wing pundits just started posting that video relentlessly on Twitter and all this other stuff. Like, oh, like, look, even the former head of the Black Panther Party, even he thinks that Trump would be a good president. The woke liberals are trying to trick you. Blacks love Trump, blah, blah, blah. And then, as it turns out, video was complete fabrication because his grandson, David Hilliard's grandson, took to Twitter to explain that his grandfather is suffering from cognitive decline and has been suffering from cognitive decline since 2014. And she literally just tricked a man with dementia to lie to a bunch of people, which is not uncommon for the Republican Party to do. I remember a story back in, like, 2020 where they tricked a guy who was, like, a blind and deaf veteran with Gulf War syndrome. They tricked him into becoming a candidate in a primary so that they could manipulate his bid to benefit the Republicans. So yeah, blacks aren't shifting to Trump. Let's move on to the main topic of this video. It's probably either a good or bad thing that I had a lot of things to say in the previous parts of this video, because this Pride Month segment, I didn't necessarily know how good this one was going to be, but it'll be fine. So this episode is going to be delving in the topic of Hetwashing in history. I've delved into this a little bit in the last episode. Feel free to watch that podcast if you haven't heard this one. But there's this thing in the gay community that is known under the names straight washing or hetwashing, which is where a person will take a very obviously LGBTQ person or thing and just pretend they aren't. Bisexual erasure is a major part of it, which is why I delved into a lot of it in the last episode. Much like bi erasure, it is very common to happen in the media, but I kind of want to focus a lot more on the history/culture aspect. Like not necessarily like I look into a media and the media is like hiding something. Like I will delve into it a little bit, but I mean it's not going to be the main focus of the segment. So like I really again want to focus a lot more on the history aspect, because like the history aspect is way more notable because it has a very big issue. We'll get into it. Okay, so historians have a little bit of a bad reputation of taking two people who are very obviously LGBTQ and then claiming they are not in some capacity. Usually, it's a very common trope nowadays where we use the adage of they're just friends, like they're just really good friends. It's very common. It's a very common joke and meme. They'll take two people who, I don't necessarily want to use this example already, but one example that I think kind of falls into this point is James Buchanan. James Buchanan, the 15th president of the United States, was really, really, really close with I think he was a senator, he might have been something else, but like he was a political figure named William Rufus King, and they were really, really, really close. Like, we all know the story of James Buchanan if you're an American. He was the only bachelor president. He had a love in the past, and he never married, due to the fact that that love that he had so much had died. And then they start looking into the fact that him and his friend, William Rufus King, hung out a lot. They spent a lot of time together. They even owned a house together. And people would literally refer to William Rufus King as Buchanan's wife, Buchanan's better half, and Nancy. Nancy, as we all know, is a very notable term to describe gay men. Nancy boy, all the like stuff like that. And only recently are historians actually taking all this information and then going, you know what, maybe they're, hold on a second. And then also reading the part where James Buchanan said that he was okay with marrying a woman if she didn't mind the fact that he had no sexual attraction to her. It's like, something's up. In history, there are a lot of female, female historical figures that coincidentally were bachelors their whole lives, never liked men, and just like, interesting. And then a lot of them, turns out, they were gay. Whoops. Another example in this regard would be Jeanette Rankin. I made a whole video on Jeanette Rankin, a member of the U.S. House, who at this point in history is very much speculated to possibly have been a lesbian. But one historical example, I think that one person that is kind of almost universally regarded in this field is the Greek poet Sappho. Now, you might not know who Sappho is. There are a lot of people who, I would guarantee you a lot of you probably know who Sappho is. But Sappho is a very prominent Greek poet who was kind of the whole reason the term lesbian even exists. The whole concept of women liking women exists. She is from the island of Lesbos, and her name, Sappho, has also been used as a reference to women loving women, sapphic love. It's sort of used as if you're not a lesbian, but you are a woman who likes a woman. Lesbians can experience sapphic love. Bisexual women can also experience sapphic love. But a bisexual woman cannot experience lesbian love because she's not a lesbian. She's bisexual. I bring this up because in doing research, it turns out that for a long period of history, historians thought Sappho was straight. I'm not kidding. There is a long period of time where historians legitimately convinced themselves that Sappho, the woman who literally wrote a first-person poem about how a woman made her nervous, and wrote another poem about how she was lusting after Aphrodite. And remember, this was a time period where sexuality was a little bit more open than there was nowadays. I say a little bit because I'm pretty sure Greek society did also have some issues with sexuality, but remember, read all the Greek mythology stories. Aren't pretty much every single Greek god bisexual? I'm pretty sure all of them are. I mean, didn't half of them also fuck animals? Like, I'm pretty sure there were still, like, chauvinistic people and, like, people who, like, really did not like homosexuality and stuff. But I'm pretty sure there were a lot of people that were kind of, like, ambivalent to the idea of it. But, like, again, like, Sappho is seemingly very obviously lesbian. But for a long period of time, historians literally were just like, nope. She's straight as an arrow. Really. And it's not just the fact that, it's not the fact that they couldn't find any historical data that showed that she was lesbian. The historical data just shows that she's lesbian. Read literally any of her poems. But they went through this weird, like a backwards contortion to convince themselves that they were basically an immigrant family, like an extremely, like, religious immigrant family, like an Italian family that is, like, trying to convince themselves, no, my little Louis, he's not gay, even though Louis walks around in, like, a pink, like, shirt and, like, holding hands with two boys, and it's like, color me shocked, but I'm pretty sure they're gay. And they went through all this, like wiggling around to try and figure out, like, oh, you see, when she wrote the poem about being nervous about a woman, you see, even though she writes it in the first person, we can assume that she's actually playing a character, a male character. Interesting. Even though I'm pretty sure the same historians would then write an analysis about how, oh, you see, this male poet, he is very impassioned about the thing that he believes in, and we know him specifically, he really liked this person. It's very obvious that it's just a double standard. Another prominent historical figure that is very much hetwashed is I brought this up multiple times, especially nowadays, because I really, 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 really like hearing this fact now, and it is the Mexican historical figure of Emiliano Zapata. That's right, if you didn't know, literally prominent left-wing political revolutionary in Mexico, Emiliano Zapata, is very much likely bisexual. Basically starting out as small whispers, turning into loud screams as more and more evidence just keeps piling up. Ranging from the daughter of Porfirio Diaz allegedly writing in her diary that she caught her husband, Ignacio de la Torre y Mir, and Zapata fucking in the stables. Like, quite literally, she literally says that she walked in the stables because her husband was supposed to be meeting with this rancher guy named Zapata, and then she caught them, like, literally fucking in the hayfield. Said husband was also allegedly part of the Baile de las 41. I'll put a card or a link to the video in, or like a just comment about the video, but like I've covered it previously. Basically, like I covered it in the context of me reviewing a movie on the video, on the thing, but like TLDR, there was this massive gay like dance. Half of the people in the dance were cross-dressers, and allegedly Ignacio de la Torre Mir was a part of it as well. Because it was like a dance of like prominent members of the Mexican political elite who were secretly hiding the fact that they were gay. Then there was also the time where during the Mexican Revolution, Emiliano Zapata was going to possibly attack Venustiano Carranza. So then in order to protect himself, he had Ignacio be part of the crowd so that he wouldn't be attacked by Zapata. And one more historical figure that I will mention is conveniently left out is Friedrich Wilhelm von Steuben. Now, I learned about this guy in history class, and I don't know if they delved into it a lot or if at all. I think actually did. They did talk about it a little bit, but like in a history class, he's not mentioned at all. But when they like play like random videos in the history class, they did mention there was one history teacher that I like basically instead of actually teaching the class, she just put on like a whole like a documentary series about the United States' history and then just watch that. And that's where I learned a little funny tidbit where it's like they brought up the fact, because a lot of people know this fact, that the Continental Army was trash. They were a bunch of farmers and immigrants who literally did not know jack shit about how to be a military. And George Washington was like the only person in the Continental Army that actually had military experience. But even he couldn't shape them up to be an actual viable fighting force. So he enlisted the help of a Prussian general named Friedrich Wilhelm von Steuben, and he is very much credited as the guy who literally turned the Continental Army into an actual viable fighting force to stave off the British military. Conveniently, the guy, like this, without this guy, Revolutionary War would have been donezo. Yeah, that dude was extremely fucking gay. Like, extremely well-known gay. Interesting that the historians kind of leave that factoid out of most U.S. historical relevance. They'll talk a lot about George Washington, but they won't talk about Frederick Stuman. Now, I don't think this is really like a surprising fact to know, but historical hetwashing is obviously really bad. Because, like, ignoring this very much just leads to people becoming reactionary. Because it just makes people stupid, like, quite genuinely. Like, not teaching people the fact that a lot of prominent historical figures were gay, bi, trans, or whatever, it leads to people not understanding anything about being gay, bi, trans, or whatever. And one big thing that shows this is the fact that there are a lot of people who seem to be genuinely convinced that gay and trans people did not exist before the year 2000. I mean, I'm not kidding. It is very common for, like, some reactionary person on Twitter to, like, post a tweet saying, like, question to all my millennials. When was the last time that you were asked by somebody what your gender was? That's interesting. And this shit didn't start happening until recently. It's because of the woke mind virus or some bullshit like that. Like, as if that's proof for anything. Like, it's like the same thing with people it's the same thing with people who are like fucking anti-vaxxers. They're like, that's weird that autism it's only started like being recently big. Like, the numbers started going really up recently. It's almost as if there might be mercury. It's like, no, it's because we now have the understanding to grasp people with autism. Like, people with autism existed long ago. Everybody knows this. You have probably met someone with autism in your lifetime that you genuinely know. Like, genuinely. Think back to your childhood. Think back to before the internet craze, before anybody even knew what the term autism was. Think back. You have probably known someone with autism. Quite literally. I brought this up in my video where I talked about autism a little bit, and quite literally, it's just like, there is a huge stereotype in old media of an elder man who doesn't interact with women, who likes to play with trains, and you're going to tell me that autism is just like this new development? Are you serious? Much in the same way, like, oh yeah, there was this one guy that I knew when I was a kid. He was a bachelor. He had this, like, friend that he kept hanging out with a lot. Quite interesting. And another stereotype, again, I'll rely on another stereotype. Stereotyping is bad, but, like, let's just acknowledge this other stereotype. You ever notice how a lot of times, if you have a female, like, gym teacher, notice how they have, like, short hair and, like, a deepish voice? I mean, I saw that. Apparently, check this out. Apparently, there are a lot of people who have this, like, apparently the same previous, like, understanding that I do, where, like, one of the gym teachers just, like, was just, I think, quite literally, it's a little hard to describe, but, like, my kindergarten gym teacher, I am 100% convinced was a lesbian. And I remember, because this is another memory that just hit me again. It's when I first went into her class. I'm pretty sure the first thing that happened when I went into her class, we played the YMCA song. This song that also has a little bit of hetwashing, because, like, I mean, I think it's intentional hetwashing, where literally, have you listened to the song, the YMCA? I mean, the whole point of the song is to be a double entendre. Like, I mean, listen to some of these lyrics. Like, listen to the chorus. It's fun to stay at the YMCA. They have everything for young men to enjoy. You can hang out with all the boys. Like, I mean, on the surface, it just sounds like, it's nothing. But it's like, wait a second. Think about it again. They have everything for young men to enjoy, and you can hang out with all the boys. Verse 2, young man, are you listening to me? I said, young man, what do you want to be? I said, young man, you can make real your dreams, but you've got to know this one thing. No man does it all by himself. I said, young man, put your pride on the shelf and just go there to the YMCA. I'm sure they can help you today. On the surface, again, like, I mean, because, like, I'm pretty sure that a lot of people don't even know what the fuck the YMCA is. It's the Young Men Christians Association. It's like a rec center where, like young men could, like, hang out and, like, have fun or whatever. Like, they play, like, games or whatever. They basically went out of style after, like, I don't know when they stopped going in. They had to have fallen before the 90s, or, like, at the very least during the 90s, because I knew of the existence of the YMCA, I just never went there. And on the surface, it just seems like, oh yeah, they're just asking for a young boy to go to they're asking for a young man to go to the YMCA because he's down on his luck and he needs some help. But the double entendre is supposed to be because a reference to the fact that the YMCA was also due to the fact, again, it's the Young Men's Christian Association. Just a bunch of young men would go there. It's a very common place for young men, at least back in the 70s when the song was produced, to hook up with each other. It was a popular cruising spot. And yeah, that's the 70s. That's literally the 70s. Point blank having a gay song. Yes. The people who genuinely don't remember. Yes, gay people did exist before the year 2000. There's a song in the 70s written by a bunch of gay men who literally made a song about fucking each other in the YMCA that you've all been listening to in your gym classes for years. Usually having the comparative of the amount of gay people have risen massively, being compared to the fact that a lot of people who were left-handed, it was very down. Like, the number of left-handed people in the United States was, extremely down. Then, when people stopped, literally beating children who were left-handed and just started accepting, yes, you could be left-handed, being, left-handedness shot up. It didn't actually shoot up. It's that the people who actually were left-handed are now being accepted and are literally just being able to be themselves. And it's the same thing with gay and trans people. The number isn't going up. It just looks like it's going up because we have forced the number to look like it's at the lowest it can be. It's a problem with reactionary politics in general. Like this whole notion of gay people didn't exist before 2000. That, again, this isn't fake. This is real. There are a lot of people who are literally they're millennials. When's the last time you were asked about your gender? Or back before 2000, literally gay people didn't. That's literally a common tweet thread. I literally put people born before 2000, and then that's almost all the tweets. And that kind of sums up the problem with reactionary right-wing politics in general. It's the search for right-wingers and conservatives and reactionaries and fascists. They all like to search for the past. They love the past so much, but they don't actually love the past at all. They hate the past. They don't like the past, but they like their imagined version of the past. In their version of the 1980s, crime was down. When, look at the actual numbers, crime blew up during the 1980s, and they are down now. Back then, you could keep your doors unlocked. People in the 80s were confused about the concept of leaving doors unlocked, and surprisingly, during that time period, there was a lot of crime happening? What? That just makes logistical sense, honestly. You see, look at these 80s shows. They're so good. You really gonna think that this show is so good when you can't watch it in the order that you need to watch the show in? And you have to, wait, wait a whole week to watch the show? Back in the day, our parents used to let us roam free all day. And then we'd come back when the porch lights were on. Yeah, and you wonder why, coincidentally, during the 80s, that was when they rolled out the whole children getting lost on milk cartons thing. In 20 years, we're going to have reactionaries say, remember the 2020s? Man, those years were amazing. Before the floobs got their rights. And keep that in mind also with media. Reactionaries claim that media today is woke and the media of the past was good. Oh boy, in 20 years, they're going to say that this stuff was good and that the stuff in the future was bad. Some examples before we get back to the actual point of the video. Star Wars prequels were hated when they came out, then they became loved. Pokemon Black and White were once considered the worst games of the franchise, now they're considered the last good ones. Quite literally, it will all change. The way to transition back to the topic is that I'm going to mention this fact to a lot of the people who genuinely think that trans people didn't exist until recently. People who very genuinely thought that trans people didn't exist again until recently. I literally have a video on this channel that is a review of a movie from the 50s that is literally super pro-trans, quite literally a pro-trans film from the 50s, Glenn or Glenda. It was a very big movie, and it was based on the life of a real transgender celebrity at the time, Christy Jorgensen. Again, gay and trans people are not a new phenomena. They have existed in history for years. They've existed long before any of the they've existed long before a lot of the Western cultural norms that we understand now. In America, we understood that the trans people existed before Europeans came here. Native American cultures literally have, like, two-spirit. I don't want to, like, specifically say two-spirit is this, but a lot of Native American cultures have the concept of the idea of when you are born male or female, but you could also possibly be born as something else, where you are born and you look one way, but you act the way the other one is supposed to act. This is a gross misinterpretation, but, like, let's say, oh, men are the hunters. You are born, you are a hunter, but you act more like a gatherer. They understood this idea long before, like, the Westerners came together. And I think that also dispels one notion that I really, really just doesn't, like, fit. And one of the defenses that I keep hearing a lot is they didn't have a term for gay or trans people at the time. Like, that's the reason why they didn't have all this in the history books. It's because they didn't know. They didn't understand this. Maybe they should have fucking made a term then. I mean, quite literally, if you're a historical figure and you're, like, reading all this fucking, like, historical stuff and you're being like, a lot of these, like, male historical figures keep, like, kissing and fucking each other. Maybe I should make a term for this, whatever this is, instead of just going like, we're just gonna hide that. Because that's the real truth. A lot of historians literally just had biases against gay people and they just wanted to hide it. And it could be a lot of things. Like, again, a lot of them could have probably just not legitimately known. There are a lot of them who probably just did have legitimate biases. I acknowledge that, like, every historical person, everybody who does history, does anything, has a bias to some capacity. I acknowledge that I have biases and have blind spots in a lot of things that I do. Why do you think I have a fucking, like, end year thing where I make a thing at the end of every year, a video at the end of every year where I look over, like, a couple of scripts that I've made over the year? Because it just makes the most logistical sense to do self-regulating. I think, like, history is supposed to have, like, a self-regulating sort of thing. Science and history sort of have that notion, like, where they all self-regulate each other. Like, if information is wrong, eventually they'll be proven wrong. Unfortunately, sometimes it takes a while, and sometimes it gets suppressed. Like, I mean, we all know the history of the fact that sugar companies kept trying to hide the fact that sugar had a connection to fat buildup and heart disease. There's also a very infamous example where Dr. Benjamin Spock basically had he basically made the entire pediatric consensus that it was wrong to have your babies lie on your back. So instead, he told parents that the best option for babies was to lie them on their stomach. Now, if you're a parent or a person who just knows anything, you understand that is a terrible fucking idea because it leads to SIDS, sudden infant death syndrome. Thankfully, it was corrected, but sometimes it doesn't happen as fast as we want it to. And, I mean, sometimes it's just like, why didn't they just get it? Why didn't we just acknowledge the rightness the first time? Why do we have to wait for self-regulating? And again, it's just because a lot of biases. To go back to Emiliano Zapata, why is this very big fact that one of the leading figures of the Mexican Revolution, why is that fact just not well known? And the fact that he is bisexual, why is that just kind of like brushed aside? Well, it's very simple. Because machismo, extreme masculinity, is very ingrained in the culture of many Latin American nations, Mexico being one of them. And for some reason, being gay is considered emasculating. In the modern day, we kind of understand this as like making fun of bottoms, but like, yeah, a lot of people like generally just like emasculate gay people, again, usually from like calling them like bottoms and like implying like, them like being subservient to men sexually. Which again is very odd. To borrow a joke from the Sleepy Cast, being straight is way more effeminate than being gay. Because it's just like, think about it. Straight men, you want like a girl who's like nice, soft, beautiful, like firm. She's like nice, she smells good, she looks good, she's like beautiful, she's like blah blah blah. It's like blah, yeah, blah blah blah. Meanwhile, gay men are literally just like, bring the biggest, buffest, hairiest man out there. Whether they're top or bottom is irrelevant. I think that's a little bit more manly than fucking like like a soft, pretty girl. I say this in jest, but apparently that's just a common thing now on like far right Twitter. Apparently, with Andrew Tate being like, "Yeah, fucking women, that's so gay," and Nick Fuentes literally just being like, "If we actually think about it, being straight is more gay than anything." Apparently, that's like a real thing now. But yes, machismo is very ingrained in Latin American culture, and what is macho to a lot of people? Being strong, being manly, like being a womanizer, things that are described as typically masculine. And Emiliano Zapata, I mean, just look at a picture of him, he definitely gives off a certain vibes. Like the dude literally rides horses with a rifle and like fights for liberty and freedom. Like that's quite literally a very like masculine type thing to do. He has like the stereotypical like Mexico bandito type like aesthetic. Why do you think a lot of their prominent like leaders and figures kind of have similar sentiments? Like I mean, in Latin America, if you were a fighter in a revolutionary, if you were a revolutionary or a military man by any means, you're basically carrying that title for the rest of your life. Che Guevara, like what is his aesthetic? He's like wears like the military type uniform, wears the beret. I mean, I'm literally, as I'm recording this, I'm wearing a fucking Che Guevara shirt. His buddy Fidel, what did he wear? He wore the military uniform and the hat all the time. Pinochet's official Wikipedia photo is him in his military uniform. Hugo Chavez, one of the very typical ways that he presented himself was through his military uniform. But it's not just political figures. Mexican singer Vicente Fernandez, he always portrayed himself as like a cowboy, like a ranch guy. Again, to sort of have like that manly, like charismatic type figure. It's ingrained heavily in the culture. Like, it's ingrained in a lot of cultures, the manly type attitude. I mean, take a look at the past. Who are our most prominent, like, media figures and stuff? Like, who are some of the most prominent figures in American history and media? Usually, all of them are somewhat masculine, have, like, big masculine type attitudes. Harrison Ford is a prime example, having two characters that are very much in line with that attitude. Han Solo, Indiana Jones. There's also the very common one of James Bond, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and anything, like, if I were to do if anything that conflicted with how you view those people is done, then it just seems weird. Like, if I were to, like, it's one of the things that made Arnold Schwarzenegger very interesting, because, like, for a while, that was the whole shtick with Arnold Schwarzenegger. They take this, like, big masculine man who would do all this stuff, and then they put him in roles that would be like, haha, it's funny. It's funny because it's different. Like, it's like, yeah, look at this guy. Big, badass, like, fucking, like, guy. He used to be the Terminator. He would, like, shoot people and stuff. Now he's a kindergarten teacher. Lol, isn't that weird? And for a lot of people, if they're a womanizer, wouldn't it be weird if they liked men? And that is why people don't necessarily, like, think of Emiliano Zapata as bisexual, because they have it in their mind that he's this womanizing guy, and for some reason, he can't do that and also like men, to the point where literally, if you just bring up this fact, a lot of Mexicans are going to get literally offended if you bring up the fact that Emiliano Zapata might have been bisexual. There's a famous painting where they literally just took Emiliano Zapata and they made him like the most effeminate gay man you could think of, and then everybody, like, they tried to get that painting banned. And unfortunately, this isn't something that happens not just in the past. This is unfortunately a thing that also happens now. And this is where we're gonna add the media aspect, because a lot of media will have a lot of very obvious, explicit pro-LGBTQ messages, and then it's just erased. Or coincidental, like, non-mentions of LGBTQ actors and film hands, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's not necessarily uncommon for, like, LGBTQ actors and, like, hands to, like, kind of be brushed under the radar. Like, I mean, Fred Rogers, the most prominent, like, children's television producer, like, television, like, caster in the world, he literally is on the record saying that he thought that men and women were attractive, but they're not going to mention that fact, are they? Kevin Conroy, literally the, like, person who is well known for being one of the best Batman in the history of the character, he's gay, and nobody brings that up. Like the same reactionaries that'll bring up, like, oh, the comic industry is becoming so woke. They bring up forcing all these gay characters in there. Are also going to be like, oh, Kevin Conroy is the greatest Batman ever. R.I.P. to a legend. One that I learned very recently, which is kind of interesting, is the thing about Mulan. And the slight controversy that happened with, basically, we all know Mulan. Even if you haven't seen it, you know what Mulan is. Well, Mulan is a Chinese, like, woman who disguises herself as a man to get involved in the Chinese military. And she ends up having a romantic interest in Captain Li Shang, and Li Shang kind of reciprocates her feelings even before she reveals that she's a woman, which has led to Li Shang being a little bit of a gay icon in the community. And I don't know if this is a coincidence or not, but the actor who played Li Shang is openly gay. And then people were kind of excited. Like, it was the one aspect of the Mulan reboot that they were kind of excited about, because they were like, okay, so maybe they'll actually do something a little more interesting there, because Disney has apparently gotten more progressive over the years, so maybe something more will be done on the subject. But nah, they chose not to. They just cut Li Shang out of the film, which, at that point, if you're going to change everything, why remake it at all? But the one that I think is the most hilarious is, I mean, it's not necessarily just the most hilarious, it's the most, like, just interesting of all of them. And it is the story of The Matrix. One of the most critically acclaimed and highest grossing film franchises in the modern day that everybody has heard of, like, quite literally, is a transgender allegory. And this is apparently not a new revelation. This has apparently been the intention of the film since its release date. Don't believe me? Well, the two transgender directors, Lily and Lana Wachowski, have quite literally said that this was their intention on multiple occasions. If you are a fan of the film, you may remember a character with the name of Switch. Well, when they wrote the script, here was the plan. The plan was that the character Switch was going to be assigned male at birth in the real world, but then when they enter the Matrix, they would be a female character. Hence their name, Switch. But the people who were behind the scenes, like the executives, are like, we don't like that. So then they forcibly had to change the character. So they basically just took the character that they were going to have play the female version of the Matrix and then just made her a bit androgynous. So there can be a slight wink and nod to the original intention. And, for no reason whatsoever, I'm going to recite this specific quote from the character Morpheus in the film. "You have come because you know something. What you know, you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your whole life. Felt that something is wrong with the world. You don't know what, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad. It is this feeling that brought you to me. Do you know what I'm talking about?" Of course, in the film, it's the Matrix that they're referring to. But a lot of people hear that line and then go, you know, this kind of sounds a lot like gender dysphoria. You feel that something is wrong, and you can't quite put your finger on it. That you don't quite get it, but you feel it. Everyone's telling you this thing, but you don't think this way. You think a different way. And the funny kicker, do you want to know what the fucking red pill is? The red pill is a 0.625 milligram Premarin tablet, the most common form of estrogen treatment back in the 1990s, when the film was written and made. So to recap, Neo has this strange feeling and then goes to Morpheus for an estrogen tablet. Like, according to Lily Wachowski, I think, they basically explain that they had these feelings of their gender dysphoria, and they didn't know how to properly put it out there, so they channeled it through their creative work. Remember that it's an estrogen tablet whenever you see one of those like incel Nazi types trying to shit on trans people. Anyways, that's pretty much all I have to say on the Hetwashing topic. But with all this talk about trans issues in the end section, maybe I should dedicate a whole one of these to trans issues. Maybe the next one will be about trans issues. Good advertising, eh? Thanks for watching this video. Be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, and click the bell to turn up when a future video of mine comes out. And if you want more content from me, you can go to my Discord or consider supporting me on Patreon.